when I was playing with you at the same table, it was like rocket fuel. A DM cannot do that at the table.
If you play D&D, you likely want to learn to be a better role player. Whether you're looking across the table at a friend who just naturally excels at it, or you're watching actual plays where professional actors flex their improv muscles, you sat there and wondered, how do I get like that? We can learn mechanics, there's an entire handbook for that. But help with role-playing is way less accessible, and there are even fewer actionable tools available that actually help you improve when you use them. In this video, we're gonna dive into what actually makes a good role player, and look at a tool I use as both a player and a DM that makes role-playing so much easier that you can start right now. It's not an accent, it's not a better backstory, it's what Brennan Mulligan calls roleplay rocket fuel, and it's inside this. And the coolest bit is that this isn't really my opinion, it's science. I've been a dungeon master for a long time, and when I finally got the chance to play in a campaign, I thought I was gonna be so good at it, but I wasn't. I ended up in the same spot that a lot of players do. An NPC would show up and I'd find myself looking to use them for information instead of treating them like a living, breathing person in the world. I was playing a game, not a character, and great role players, well, they do both. So, of course, I looked for help. I watched actual plays, looked up online tutorials, but the best advice I have ever found was in an episode of Dropout's Adventuring Academy with Brennan Mulligan and Emily Axford.
That's such a rare quality in players that before I wouldn't have been able to articulate it, how much harder it makes your DM's life when you as a player aren't forming attachments to things in the world.
If you want to do something nice for your DM, make sure that you know what your player cares about and say it and make it clear. I think the thing that I make a conscious effort is to care about something.
Let that sink in. She's a professional improviser, and she still has to make a conscious effort to have a reaction and form a strong opinion about something, which is the job of the role player. This effort shows that you care about what the DM is presenting you. As someone who is DMing most of the time, there's nothing worse than presenting a character or a hook to a party and being met with when the PCs don't form opinions of enemies, NPCs, or each other, it unfortunately becomes the DM's job to move the story along.
A DM moving the story forward is kind of lame to an audience. Like, it doesn't feel as fun. That's what people are used to in novels and movies, is the main characters driving the plot.
In that story, it is so much easier to roleplay a conversation just by allowing yourself to acknowledge, I like this person or I don't like this person. And this is super important. You need to vocalize these opinions for the audience, which in this case is the DM and your other players. Will Turner doesn't have to say out loud that he hates pirates, but because he does, it immediately gives the DM a compelling situation to put Will in. One where the only way for him to save Elizabeth is to work with one. When you first start doing this, like Emily and other role players before you, you'll realize that this takes a lot of effort.
In life, you have opinions about like everything.
Yes!
You have so many opinions swimming around in your head. Why wouldn't your player character also have them?
The advice, have an opinion, does not mean that you should invent one though. Rather, it means that you allow yourself to react honestly to what's happening. According to Truth in Comedy, considered one of the best resources for improvisation, the truth is funny. Honest discovery, observation, and reaction is better than contrived invention. We are so used to filtering ourselves in the real world that it takes a conscious effort to bypass that filter.
You are not fabricating your reactions, but instead choosing to be vulnerable enough that your honest reactions are given a runway to come out in the moment.
This is why your life is way less dramatic than your favorite stories, which is a good thing. Characters in a story are destined for conflict because honest conflict is what drives a story forward. If you go through your entire campaign as you would in your normal day-to-day, avoiding reaction and conflict at every turn, the story will be stagnant.
What you are fighting against when you're playing D&D is the thing you're fighting against in any creative endeavor, which is you're fighting against the blank page. Amplifying these reactions, where it's like some little stimulus comes up and you go, ooh, here's how I feel about that. It creates a feedback loop and it makes the story feel effortless.
If I did form an opinion on any NPC, the lack of conviction behind it was even worse when they would show up again weeks later and I couldn't remember why I had that opinion in the first place. I call this the clean slate complex. It's been an extended amount of real time since you've even talked to this NPC, so if you're lucky, you may remember that you like or dislike them, but you have no idea why or how much.
I can't tell you how sad it is as a DM to be running a session where you can feel everything you're doing is going through the motions because nothing ever gets personal for the PCs.
What's the difference? A strong opinion has a reason for it, and that is where these come in. I like to keep a small journal like this for each character I play, but it's what I started adding to the back of it that fully unlocked my role-playing brain. In the very back of my notebook, I add a section reserved specifically for my character's opinions of different NPCs. You're probably thinking, Sam, why does this matter? Why does it need to be in a little journal? Can't I just type it into my digital character sheet or just, I don't know, remember? And you could, but according to your brain activity, it doesn't have the same effect. Writing things down by hand makes them stick in your brain, which solidifies your character and their opinions in your mind. According to the National Library of Medicine, the slower pace of handwriting fosters deeper thought and creativity as the brain has more time to process and synthesize ideas. When you handwrite the reason for your opinion, it forces you to acknowledge your honest impulses and the reasons for them, giving you and your character a real reason to care, which, according to Brennan, is your one job as a player.
To a certain degree, and it's bad news for DMs, you need to have a conversation with your player characters because this is a potluck and caring is the responsibility of the players. And if no one is offering that, to me, it's the equivalent of a DM coming with like no adventure prepared. You have no problem in the moment being like, that rules. My character loves that and is very attached to it.
While my little back of journal opinion tracker has gone through a few iterations over the past few years, the current version looks like this. Since my session notes start in the front, I recommend starting from the back and working your way forward. On one page, we have the NPC, notes about them, theories, facts, smells, etc. On the other, we have the opinion tracker. I use 6 little pips across the top of the page. You don't have to do 6, but I like even numbers because it removes the cop-out of a completely neutral opinion. A truly neutral opinion is the same thing as having no opinion. When I first meet an NPC, I add their entry to my notebook and start with their first impression, making a conscious effort to think about how my character would feel about them and not how I feel about them. Then, stealing from the Betrayal at House on the Hill, awful name, great game, I mark their number with one of these little book darts. The most important thing here is that you write down why you feel that way. What's their vibe? What's their angle? Why are they here? What do they want? Once you have your opinion, and again, this is the most important part, state it out loud in character. Brennan compares this to the echolocation a bat uses. The DM sends out a signal. You react to it with your character's opinion or actions, and that gives the DM information about where the story is heading. It's not just for your DM though. Your reaction is a signal you send to your other players about how your character is feeling or what they believe, which gives them something to agree or disagree with. This back and forth volley of opinions, actions, and beliefs can create bonds or build rivalries, both of which are the fuel that drives roleplay between characters, which Brennan recalls in a game he played alongside Emily.
When I was playing with you at the same table, I'm like making choices as this character, and you had this strong reaction. It was like rocket fuel. Someone is like seeing the choice I made and engaging with it, not being like, cool, that's your character? Okay, so what's up with this mystery, Murph? If this was Lord of the Rings, like the relationship between Sam and Frodo is so much of what makes those books good. A DM cannot do that at the table.
Yeah. If you want to help your DM care about your other PCs.
This is why you should also track your character's opinion of your party members as well. Don't stop at NPCs, and most importantly, don't let your opinions be unchanging. If you're thinking, man, this seems too organized, this is a game. I didn't used to be like this, but now I have to be organized all the time because my actual job is project-based, but I really like making these videos, and to be honest, the more people that support me on Patreon, the more I can turn into future projects and make more videos, so there's a link down below. Thanks for watching my ad all the way through, by the way. In real life, we can be really set in stone in our opinions of someone. Those opinions, they can be iron, they can be firm.
It was mineral. No.
It can take years for those opinions to slowly shift and change, but let's be real, the odds of keeping a multi-year campaign alive aren't the greatest. In order for your character to experience growth, every time you have a meaningful interaction or an important moment with a character, make a conscious effort for your opinion to be malleable and change that number whenever you can. always giving a reason why it shifted. In National Treasure, absolutely D&D movie, Ben Gates may be our main character, but it's Abigail's changing opinion of him that drives the story. In their first meeting, he starts out at a 3. He's clearly intelligent, but clearly insane. She doesn't hate him, but he's telling her someone's going to steal the Declaration of Independence, which is pretty weird. Later, Ben actually does steal it, dropping his number all the way to the bottom. To her, Ben is now a criminal who just compromised her career and her life's work. When Ian's men capture her, Ben rescues her, making him not entirely a terrible person and moving that tracker up to a 2. Soon after, he allows Abigail to remain involved rather than just ditching her, sliding up to a 3. She's not happy with him at this point, but he explains his reasoning, listens to her opinion, and she notices that he's not behaving like someone who wants to exploit the treasure. In a few minutes, they work together to figure out the clue on the back of the Declaration, proving what he says is true, sliding his number up into the positive. She may not be in love with the guy at this point, but she respects his historical knowledge, and now she understands why he did what he did.
Key in silence, undetected.
They have little moments of shared interest and respect throughout the movie, gradually sliding Ben's number up to a 5, to the point that Abigail gives up the Declaration to Ian in order to save his life. The final push to a 6 occurs when Ben gives the treasure to the government at the end of the movie. Everything he said about caring about the history and not wanting to exploit the treasure turns out to be true. Oh yeah, and they fall in love and all that. By allowing your opinions to shift and change through the story, this takes you from just role-playing your character's opinions to playing through a character arc. Using this technique forces you to acknowledge opportunities where your character's opinions can change, which would usually go unnoticed if all you have is your character sheet and your untrained acting skills. Professional actors and trained improvisers do this intuitively.
What a large goon you are.
But for the rest of us, this mini catalog of events, impressions, and personality quirks make it so much easier to have a strong opinion of someone that can still evolve over time like a real character. As a DM, I use the same tool to track the opinions of my NPCs toward the party as a whole, and for individual PCs who have significant interactions or history with them. While handwriting is still king for players, as a DM, I'm managing like 50 NPCs, so I use an online tool called Milanote to deal with the scale. This helps my NPCs maintain consistent characteristics and tone throughout the campaign. It's also an easy guideline for how much patience they might have in discussions, similar to the negotiation mechanics from Draw Steel. It also helps an NPC's first introduction feel like they have their own varying personalities. Some particular grouchy NPCs start with everyone at a 1, or vice versa for an NPC who just loves everybody. As a DM, a really fun exercise can be to roll a d6 to get an NPC's starting impression of the player characters. Then you just have to justify why they feel that way. The best thing you can do, though,
you need to have a conversation with your player characters
about the importance of their opinions in your games. Send them this video if you need some assistance, but pay attention to their opinions toward your NPCs, toward your hooks and ideas. And when you notice an overlap or a conflict, that's your fuel. That's your scene.
That's the rule. That's the goal now.
According to the motto of world-renowned acting coach Del Close, light fuse and run. For me, simpler is better, so I prefer these little field notes journals for my player characters. They're small enough that I can throw them in my pocket on the way to a session, and they come in packs of 3 with some pretty cool designs. For the tracker, these little book darts are the absolute best solution I've found. They're ridiculously cheap, come in a pack of 50, and are small enough to hold on to one individual page. If you end up going the pocket journal route, I really like these little clips that hold everything together. They hold the pages shut so the things don't get bent, and they also hold one pen. Simple, clean, not a lot to think about there. Altogether, these little tools combine into a simple but so effective tracker for my character's opinions of every NPC and player character. I know who they are, I know my character's opinion of them, and I know why I believe it. As a result, I can speak to them in character with a fully formed, strong opinion, and I have reasons for the relationships I do or don't have with them. When my honest reactions are allowed to come forward this way, they evolve and drive the story over the course of the campaign, which makes the campaign ending so much more impactful, because I remember everything we've been through and the moments that brought us where we are now. Making this video is the YouTube equivalent of lighting the fuse and running. The explosion, though, is up to you. If this video has been useful to you, subscribing will help me make more of them. Like the video, hit the bell, press the hype button, whatever YouTube is asking you to do now. But this has been Tabletop University. I've been Sam. A special thank you to my patrons, and thank you for watching.